Alright guys, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Chaos Dwarves led by Pink facing off against Tzeentch, who's going to be helmed by ghouls here on the Proving Ground. Certainly a very melee-focused map. Shooting is a little bit tricky here because of the tree line, so for example, if this was like a Dwarf or Empire-type map for cannons, you would have a pretty open line of sight on multiple objectives, but here, typically artillery can really only hit one or two objectives, maybe two if you angle it in a very risky position, but overall, certainly more of a melee grind kind of objective scrapping map. Now, looking at the Chaos Dwarf build, it's certainly built for that. Here in the backfield, we do have the double BALE TAURUS, and BALE TAURUSes are honestly pretty respectable monsters. They have a huge HP pool, they hit incredibly hard, solid charge bonus, good melee attack, and really high melee defense for a monster as well. So I always felt like they were a little bit underrated and weren't being used because of how oppressive other things were when Chaos Dwarfs first came out, but maybe now it's the time of the BALE TAURUS meta. We got Old Foghorn on the ground, Astragoth Iron Hand, going to be rocking Flamestorm as well as the Ash Storm. Interesting. So this one lowers speed and makes them weak to fire. So I think the synergy with this is to cast Ash Storm on an enemy character or something you really want to snipe, giving it 20% fire weakness. And I don't know if that triggers the Kindle Flame. Maybe it does, actually. Or is that only off lower fire spells? But anyways, it would then make the BALE TAURUS get in and do an additional 20% damage, which is huge. 20% of 540 is substantial, right? So that's going to be the battle line. The two Infernal Castellans, I think, are a really nice tech. These guys are excellent at just sitting on the ground, fighting on objectives if need be, with their armor piercing or regenerating frames, and also do have some good sniping abilities. So they can sit there with the long rifles and also poke at someone like Kairos and keep them honest. So that's going to be it for the Jowie. Now, looking at Ghouls here. Ghouls is going to be rocking Zangors, Zangors, and Zangors. No surprises, and more Zangors. So it's going to be max out Zangors, which of course are pretty good. I mean, Chaos Dwarves do usually struggle in the infantry department, so spamming these bad boys could be nice. Granted, they would be slightly weak against like a train Chorf build, so if Pink had come in with like 3 or 4 trains or something, that could have been pretty devastating against his style of Plague. Tzeentch does have some answers though. They got the big chicken, he's got some sniping with blue fire, can also snare things in place with Gaze of Fate, which I would imagine has been brought. So there's plenty of good stuff here. So here comes the first blue. Looks like it's going to be going after the BALE TAURUS, who does a little bit of Matrix action, but those blue fire shots are really, really good tracking. Typically, they're going to be following you until the sun and stars die out. So, like, sometimes you could dip behind terrain to dodge it, but that's pretty much it. So, the Chorfs moving up with the Chaos Dwarf Laborers, as well as the Chaos Dwarf Warriors moving up at the point, and the BALE TAURUS is going to be Benny Hilling, chasing down Kairos here, and it looks like they might catch him and get a little bit of damage on the shields, which is certainly huge. I mean, any damage you can get on this big chicken is always welcome. And looks like he is going to be pulling away right now. Meanwhile, objective number 2 hanging out as the Infernal Castellans getting ready to party. Chaos Dwarves saving a ton of resources, so maybe they're going to be waiting to see what Tzeentch goes or where they play before they call in something, but I suspect it's going to be trains. Either that or some sort of a heavy artillery piece. Magma cannons, are still okay against like lightly armored troops and things like that, but again, on this map, I think artillery, outside of maybe a Deathreek rocket launcher, probably would be a mistake. Now, are these going to be breath attacks? Yeah, the BALE TAURUSes do have breath attacks. Look at that, the BALE TAURUS breath snipe. All right, that did some okay damage. And the other one does kind of hit the chicken a little bit as well, so I can't remember the last time I've seen that ability being used. Side objective going to be taken by Ghouls, so Ghouls gets over here and chills with a couple Zangors. Nice play indeed as the BALE TAURUS characters start to pull back towards objective number 2, and the Chaos Dwarves sitting on... The anticipation's killing me here. It's got to be a train, right? And it looks like it is going to be... No, Infernal Guard Fireglaves and 1 train. Okay, no, a Deathreek. So Deathreek Rocket Launcher, yeah, I like that. It's certainly going to keep Kairos honest. It gives you a tool against the Mutilith Vortex Beast, which is normally a nightmare. Kairos, of course, is insane because he brings Regrowth to the roster, and then Regrowth could be cast on the Muti Beast, which is pretty foul. But the BALE TAURUSes should be able to outmaneuver that big thing. They are flying, of course. They do land down here and go after some Zangors, immediately getting some good damage. And Astragoth also going to be getting in with his little workshop Gremlin Hammer. And oh no, he decided to breathe fire there, which is cool as well. Breathing fire, yes. So Deathstreak Rocket Launcher going after Muti Beast. It looks like the BALE TAURUS is going to be retreating right now to get away from the anti-large monster coming in. Meanwhile, the Castellans, what are they shooting? It looks like they are trained onto the Mutilith Beast. And, honestly, a 3v1 here wouldn't be bad. Just turning around and getting both these monsters and Astragoth going after the Muti Beast could be a pretty safe little engagement there. But looks like Tzeentch is going to be able to overwhelm the middle objective. Value trading is going for the Chaos Dwarves, though, but objective play certainly will be favoring Tzeentch in the immediate future because of the prevalence of capture weight they have, whereas the Chaos Dwarves are a little bit more monster-focused here. But yeah, I wouldn't hate the BALE TAURUSes getting in and just trying to goon this bad boy. Plus, these little Castellan characters do have anti-large halberds. And yeah, this could be the play here. Look at that. So Ash Storm going down, making it weak to fire. A hell of a lot of fire damage coming in here. Look at the Mutilith Beast getting nuked into the Shadow Realm. Man, its HP is dropping so quick against these BALE TAURUSes, because they're doing over 600 weapon strength right now with that Ash Storm active. Regrowth trying to keep it alive, but that gooning is serious. And the Mutilith Beast is going to be going into the trash can pretty hard. Not going to have a chance. Still getting 500 value despite all that. That's because of the Mortis engine probably. But overall, yeah, the Muti Beast is going to get shattered and broken. My goodness, that was a crazy, crazy goon. That's a really cool tech, the Ashtorm plus Baletor's gooning combo. I can see that being incredibly devastating. Plus also the 2 characters on the ground, the Castellans, do have anti-large halberd, so they're able to really punish the beast. But that's a pretty brutal big value loss for Tzeentch here. But Tzeentch still does have a ton of infantry on the field. Bull Centaurs with dual axes being called out, which is a great call. They're going to be able to just annihilate Zangors left and right, no problem. Meanwhile, in the backfield, it looks like some of the Beastmen have gotten on top of the old Fireglaves who are making their way up to the objective. And the Fireglaves will hold somewhat resilient here, but they're still going to lose at the end of the day in a 2v1 unless they get some help. I mean, they just have a low model count. They only have 80 models against 100 models. Zangors do, of course, have better sustained combat stats, although it's pretty similar, but yeah, the low model count's a big issue. Kairo's back here also cackling as well. It looks like he went after the Deathstreak rocket launcher, but wasn't able to get it in time. A nice Gaze of Fate going down here on the Bull Centaur renders from Kairo's Fate Weaver. The Great Waver going to be dropping some big Tzeentch magic right now. Looks like it is going to be the Tzeentch Army Ultimate. Or the single target one, but no, I think that's going to be the ult, and I'm really curious to see what kind of damage it ends up doing right here. Not bad against the Bull Centaur. So far, it's respectable. About 15% HP is doing a little bit of friendly fire right now, and yeah, all right, that's actually not terrible. Yeah, it brings it down to about half health. I mean, that's an expensive unit, so certainly worth. Baletor's character is going to be making their way back here, and the old Bull Centaur renders with the dual axes, able to clear out the remainders of those Zangors in tandem with Tzeentch's backstabbing of their own units. Now, back up on the objective, we do see Foghorn and the Chaos Dwarf Warriors trying desperately to fight for this objective, but they have not been able to get it back yet. But I do think there's going to be a big momentum shift when the Chaos Dwarves are able to kind of salvage their backfield. Deathstreak rocket launcher showing why they're one of the best artillery pieces in the game as the blue fire spam continues to go after the Deathstreak, which is a good call. You can break that thing. The thing about Deathstreaks that's really annoying is when they break and run, they only have 20 speed, so if they run off the map, you just like never get to resummon it because it spends like half the game waddling off the map if it's like shattered or broken or something like that. So oftentimes it's better just to unsummon it if you can. But yeah, I do like the Bull Centaurs with the dual weapons. Knowing that Tzeentch has become a very infantry heavy faction with the prevalence of Zangors, having those guys in reserve feels like a pretty solid move for sure. Flamestorm going down on these Zangors. Kindle Flame's going to be triggering, making them a little bit weaker, and that won't do the best damage in the world, but not going to be terrible either. Does tickle their pickle a little bit, while the Bull Tauruses and the, I believe the Bale Taurus is pulled back here. Yeah, they still pulled into the backfield, but there's going to be a reckoning when those units get to the front line. Do the Chaos Dwarves have any cap weight over here also? Doesn't really look like it. Yeah, they're really, really light on capture weight here. A lot of Bull Centaurs coming out, but they're going to need some, like, cheap units to get up and make sure they don't start losing the only objective they have, right? Baletor's character is going to be hustling over there. Astergoth and the boys, the Infernal Castellans, and the remainders of these Chaos Dwarf Warriors fighting in the pits here. I do think in this matchup is like a late game call-in. The basic elite Chaos Dwarf infantry might be good, like the 1,000 gold variant. I feel like they would be able to trade well into a lot of the Tzeentchian infantry, but not in the beginning when Tzeentch is like really magic heavy. They have a ton of magic in the pool, but maybe in like the mid game, I think that could be a nice tech. Baletor's is making a bit of a mistake jumping into Spears. The Spears are going to be chipping a bit of HP off them, and sure, the Spears are going to break in a second when the Bull Centaurs get here, but overall, certainly maybe slightly better targets for those bad boys to get into. And here comes the dual axes right on top of the blue horrors. Their 22 melee defense not going to be holding super well against the 36 plus the BVI, or the bonus for infantry is what that means. I believe it's like 20 plus. There it's 18, yeah, so that's pretty substantial. They're going to cut those guys to pieces, no problem. Middle objective, though, still being held onto by Tzeentch. Meanwhile, the Great Chicken launching some blue fire spam onto the Bull Centaurs, doing some good damage. Clearly, it's like the WD-40 of spells. It pretty much fixes all your problems and gets the job done here. Big boys flying down. Bale Taurus is a little bit tar-pitted by Screamers. I'm surprised we haven't seen more Screamers yet, but I guess like large Chowie. No, large Chowie is pretty common. Typically, you're seeing trains. So that's why you would need the Screamers. And the Bale Taurus is still healthy, but looks like they're a little bit trapped up here, taking that nice steady anti-large damage, while the Chaos Dwarf characters fight here. Huge blobbing opportunity right here. This is like just a fully erect spell right there. If the Chaos Dwarfs can get like a Flamestorm right there and clear off that middle objective, that would be a huge avenue for getting them back in the game. But yeah, they're up in value for sure. There has been some healing on Tzeentch, but I would say, you know, the healing kind of got mitigated by the absolute just shattering of that character, right? Or that monster earlier. Bale Taurus is going for a bit of a gooning. Look at that. Going after Kairos with the Ash Storm, and it also slows too, which is kind of neat. So he's down to 68 speed, taking a little bit of damage. I mean, killing Kairos would basically just end the game. That would just be brutal. Here we do see Screamers, double Screamers battling the Bull Centaurs with dual axes. That's going to be massively favored for the Screamer Goon Squad. And the Flamestorm of the Gods goes down, just like we said, and it does some big old damage. Definitely starts to probably get these blues down to crumbling state. They've got to be close. Sitting at 27, then 6 leadership. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Man, that Flamestorm was brutal because it was just a single Chorf character in there. So they're all piled in super tight trying to get those attacks. That was a money Flamestorm. Honestly, that could be a game-winning play right there. I would imagine his value to skyrocket. Be at 2100 here. Pretty damn good. On the other side, Chaos Dwarf Warriors versus Zangors. I don't know who actually wins that. I think if the Zangors get the charge, they win it, but without the charge, it's a little bit more even. Yeah, probably Zangors. The HP difference, we got 7,800 against 86. Chaos Dwarf Warriors basically just need a cost reduction. They're very overpriced, so. But then that Flamestorm is brutal. In the middle, we see Tzeentch starting to fold up here. And Tzeentch has been calling in mostly Screamers to deal with some of the Bull Centaurs, so they don't necessarily have the best capture weight right now in the points. So you can see that the Chaos Dwarves probably going to be able to wrestle this one as the last of the Screamers, most likely going to be dragged down. And at this point, yes, the Chaos Dwarves could still win with 2 objectives pretty comfortably. And it looks like they might be able to pull something off here. More Chaos Dwarf Warriors moving up. Kairos going to run Interference. Marauders with Spears being called in. Good blue fire. Nice attempt to dodge it. Sometimes you can dodge back like that to mitigate it, but that was pretty much like a perfect one right there, and it ends up taking down a lot of those Chaos Dwarf Warriors. Objective 1 owned by the Chowie. Objective 2 owned by the Chowie as well. And I don't think there's going to be any comeback here for Tzeentch, guys. The value difference is just massive. Even with, like, let's say 2,000 value from healing from Kairos, it still is a huge value gap. It would still be like 2.3, 2.5 there. And a lot of the value that Tzeentch does have is tied up in these monsters, which are still on the battlefield for the most part. We are going to be seeing one break and run right now in this BALE TAURUS, who's gotten 1,600 value. So hey, he's done pretty good. Basically paid for himself. And the objective is going to be flipping. So Chaos Dwarfs can basically just comfortably hunker down on 2 objectives if they want to, or they could try and play all 3 and just really close out the game. They certainly have a couple options in that regard. Now, looking at banked resources, we do see the Chaos Dwarfs sitting at about 1,800. No Collins at the moment, and for Tzeentch, it's basically just desperation spamming cheap units. So we got Marauders with Spears moving in all directions. BALE TAURUS number 1 here, good to be chased off the battlefield. Meanwhile, they are holding pretty firmly on this middle point. Screamers going after the Hobo Goblins, but they are going to be getting shanked down by the Infernal Castellans, a character that I think is super underrated. Infernal Castellans are just rad. The fact that they heal in combat, they have range shooting, they're heavily armored and durable, they just give you such a good fighting presence on an objective, and I would imagine in land battle too that they're probably pretty good. So objective starts to flip back a little bit, but that's going to flip pretty quickly once the big monsters and Astrogoth get back in there and start to bully them. We get Hobo Goblins coming in, which is a good response, I would say. That's going to be mitigating the capture weight if they can sit on the side of the point here. And on objective number 3 here, it looks like the Chaos Dwarves still trying to push their way up. More Goblin Laborers just swarming across as the Chaos Dwarves fight to try and get that point. Certainly not easy. BALE TAURUS character here getting sniped a little bit. He's up to 2,000 value, and there are a lot of Spears and Screamers around him, so that's a really nice amount of value there for Tzeentch. Another Flamestorm going to be going down. The Flamestorms this game have been super clutch, and once again, we're going to be getting a fat, juicy Flamestorm that just tears through those Marauders. And yeah, it's a good spell, man. It's cool seeing Astrogoth being used. You know, he went through some weird phases in this game. He was just egregiously OP and then kind of got overshadowed. But I think Chaos Dwarf players, all 5 of them in the meta are, exploring and figuring out cool techs here. Side objective looks pretty comfortably held. As far as banked points go, the Chaos Dwarves look like they called in some thunder here. So we do see the Bull Centaur renders, dual axes coming back out. A couple of Hobgoblin archers or riders that need to be unsummoned back there to make sure the Chaos Dwarfs don't run out of units. And it looks like there's going to be a little bit of flanking action as the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders may be trying to get around the back of the Zangors and break them. Gaze of Fate once again going down. Are we going to be seeing another Tzeentch army ability like we saw earlier to try and nail those bad boys? Definitely doesn't look like it. The sky's looking nice and clear here, and whatever part of the old world this is, it certainly doesn't look like somewhere that's pleasant. Probably somewhere in like the north of Midland region, like by the Norskin lands. I would suspect it's one of those like contested areas, but if you're the map maker, let me know. What was the inspiration for this region? Look at them when they run. Isn't it adorable when those little bulls just waddle? 2,200 value. We do see Astrogoth plugging away, trying to hold down the objective. Could flip, but the side point is now being contested as well by the Chaos Dwarves. Those blues being taken down. Tzeentch army ability being popped. Oh, that's so unfortunate here for Ghouls. That one's going to be missing and pretty much doing nothing. It's such a money ability. Isn't it funny how like some armies just have it and some don't? It's not even like multiplayer balance was taken into consideration. It was just like a game 3 thing, right? But I mean, ultimately, hasn't ended up being too bad, but yeah, it'd be cool if like every army had an ability like that, like 3, right? Like the Greenskins could have Wa, they could have something else, maybe like a Fungi Rampage. The Empire could have like a Hold the Line ability like that you proc during battle. I think that'd be really neat. But again, this game's in its later stages. I don't think there's going to be anything like super creative or innovative in terms of like that type of stuff at this point. Zangor is getting bashed down, and we got 2 leadership on those bad boys, and the objective is going to be taken by the Chowie. Middle objective does get flipped back to the old Tzeentchian hordes, but overall, I think that the characters are going to be able to flip this one back. Probably just beat down these Marauders, and those Zangors are going to take a while, and yeah, but I don't see this objective flipping anytime soon. I believe we have 2 Bull Centaur renders here, I know, just one. But Chaos Dwarf Warriors and some Hobgoblin Riders, which they themselves provide 4 capture weight. Not bad at all. Up in the sky, good play here by Ghouls. Going after the old BALE Taurus. So the BALE Taurus is going to be hunted down by these Screamers. Negative 49 leadership, 170 and 79 HP. It's doing the dreaded humping animation, and it falls. So the BALE Taurus is down for the count. All the Chaos Dwarf monsters are off the table. I'm really surprised we're not seeing any train action. Like, those things are so devastating. But it's kind of like cool, because I guess the trains are pretty massively expected. So doing something a little bit different, I think maybe caught the opponent off guard here. Who knows? Who knows? Now, big fighting on this point. We got Goblin Laborers, Bull Centaurs, and the Hobgoblin Cavalry are sitting back to maintain capture weight, while you do see the Bull Centaurs with dual axes getting into combat and certainly generating good value. These boys with the dual weapons will be very effective in killing armored infantry, and you can see the Zangor starting to hemorrhage models here. I've lost about 5 or 6 models since I started looking. And these, that's Kairos. I want to see what the Bull Centaurs have. The Bull Centaur render is currently rocking about 1,500. I'm not sure if that was one that was in its previous life, but something to look at. Now, nice counterplay here as well. As soon as this objective gets abandoned by the Chaos Dwarves, we see Ghouls watching very closely. So the blue Horrors of Tzeentch going to be heading towards objective 1. No call-ins for the Chaos Dwarves. That's very, very risky. If that objective does get taken, I mean, this is a pretty close game, and it looks like this objective might actually flip back to the forces of the Changer. Yeah, it looks like they are getting it. Maybe at this point you pull everything away. I think the Chaos Dwarves might have made a slight mistake by trying to play all 3 objectives, and I can tell you because I do that all the time. I just get such a hard-on to triple cap my opponent and trying to end the game and just like really, really close it out and move on to the next match kind of attitude, you know? But it can come back to bite you for sure. These Bull Centaurs are doing good, but they're saturated in spears. I think pulling them back to the middle and just like anchoring down on these 2 points could have been pretty strong. And we get another BALE Taurus being called out. Wow. So Chaos Dwarves do pass Tzeentch in points, but it's still very, very close here. Side objective is going to be flipping to the Changer right now. This one is going to be flipping to the Chorfs here in a moment with the Castellans, and the side point is going to be a big problem. Is there any Hobo Goblins? That's what you would really need right now. Some Hobo Goblin Cavalry to mitigate the capture weight of these blues, because they have 4 against the 5 of the blues, so they would be able to slow the cap heavily. I'll give you time for reinforcements. But yeah, I don't know how that's going to all unfold here. Zangor's hustling across. Goblin Laborers are moving up to bump and grind versus the blues. Nice damage there, getting through the shields almost instantly. And no Hobo Goblin Cavalry. We do see a couple in the backfield, which needed to be unsummoned a while back, which is, obviously one of the reasons why they didn't have them in the pool right now. But we do get the Tzeentch army ability getting popped here. Astrogoth heading over to the side point to try and mitigate the cap while he can. Currently, this is such a close game, man. It looks like the Chorfs are going to take that one over, but a couple misplays on the objectives, and of course, Tzeentch's healing and shield regeneration taken into account. It's a little bit closer than you would look, than you would think. But yeah, the Castellans are kind of anchored in one position. Jowie moving on to the objective over here. We still have the Bull Centaur renders. Looks like they're going to be heading to the middle to try and prevent that capture, while Astrogoth does attack the blues, and Hobgoblin Riders coming in, but a little bit late. And we do see the big BALE Taurus getting attacked by Screamers. Pretty unfortunate for them, but the BALE Taurus still fighting tooth and nail to try and get that point back. We'll see how he does. Now, on the middle point, the Bull Centaur is going to be arriving. Tzeentchian infantry certainly doing well. They're doing quite good. All those spears into the BALE Tauruses, or excuse me, into the Bull Centaurs seem to be generating good progressive value over the course of the long game. And here on this side, we see a little bit of Chaos Dwarf capture weight, but that's going to be mitigated once these Angors do move in. 1340 right now, 1345. Side objective looks like it's going to be flipping to the Chowie here in a second, as the Hobgoblins do manage to get rid of the blues, and now they need to find a way to hold on to the middle. That's going to be pretty big, and it ain't going to be easy, that is for sure, because it's getting really close to 1500. It's getting really, really close. So BALE Taurus needs to get over to the middle right now with Astrogoth. This point, it's probably going to flip. I don't see Tzeentch sending anything here, so you just leave your Wolf Riders here to maintain the capture weight. You can even leave Astrogoth to make it a little bit quicker, which I think in this situation probably would be warranted. Chaos Dwarfs making a play for the side objective here on on objective number 3, which I don't think is going to go. And I think Tzeentch is going to win this game. I do. I've been doing this a while. I've seen enough. I do think that here it's going to take the Chaos Dwarves a little bit too long, and I do think this game was totally in the bag for the Chaos Dwarves. They played super well. Pink played a really good game. This is like a bottom tier faction playing against a top tier meta faction, and was decisively ahead in the trading. It just came down to, like, sometimes when you're playing these like factions like Dwarves and Chaos Dwarves, which have a lot of similarities, you need to, and look at that, even getting the kill on Kairos in the 4th quarter, they're really sending a message. You need to just hunker down on 2 objectives and not try and be greedy, because Chaos Dwarf capture weight is not dynamic at all. It's slow, it's potato, and they're terrible. So you need to just like use your elite assets to maintain those 2 objectives, which I do think Chaos Dwarfs could have done and could have won that game. But overall, really fun, regardless. Cool seeing the BALE Taurus as being incredibly good. We saw the Castellans holding it down. Astrogoth Flamestorms were super, super clutch. Deathstreaker did okay. The big guns not so good. The Bull Centaurs with dual weapons actually not bad. So maybe a bit of a resurgence for Chaos Dwarfs. It would be cool to see them make their way back into the meta after those bouncing changes. And for Tzeentch, it's pretty standard stuff, using their best infantry. Kairos is very strong. despite the Mutilith Beast loss, still scrapping back, and Screamers and Pinks and, you know, all sorts of good stuff like that. So, yeah, it was a good performance on both player sides. GG, well played. See you guys around. That's it for tonight, and you take care of yourselves.